If you regularly commute between Greenfield and the hill towns to the west, you probably passed Old Greenfield Village. GCTV community coverage stopped and visited the village recently and found it to be a true representation of late 19th century Greenfield. The most interesting aspect of the village is that every building was constructed and every implement and relic was collected by one man, Wayne Morris.
Oh, my wife and I lived in Holyoke, and we went to a restaurant, the Yankee Peddler. And in the back of the Yankee Peddler, there was a general store, a country store, all set up. So I walked back there and looked that over, and I was totally enamored. I love this. The setting, the fixtures, the wood, the lamps, and the potbelly stove. And I said, I can do this. Maybe I can make my own store. After 34 years, 1996, I was retired, put up a sign, and here I am to see people who are local and travelers and tourists and anyone who might have an interest now, and hopefully there'll be an interest in the future. I tried to preserve what I could of the vibrant past and let people get a look at the way things used to be. Where I could get the Greenfield fixtures, I did. I wanted to preserve exactly the things that were made here, used here, and enjoyed here. That, to me, that's history.
We toured just a few of the many buildings and shops at Old Greenfield Village.
Well, there was a Casper Ranger, and every town had their own builders. You didn't really build your own house in your own barn back in the 1800s. People did this. We had half a dozen builders before the turn of the 20th century. They'd build a house, build a barn, build a mill, build a wooden bridge, and very nicely, Casper didn't throw away his old original tools. They were in a warehouse. So I was able to locate them and find the best ones I could and bring them home. And it's typical of what would have been used by any builder, including the ones right here in Greenfield. This is the fire engine. It's a steam pumper. Every town had one of these. Cities had a lot of them. 2 horses, 2 men. It doesn't carry water, it pumps water. You have to have your own water, a pond, a stream, a well, a hydrant, a cistern, a swamp, something. And this would draft the water out of the source and then pump it through the hoses under pressure. I somehow think that as a town developed, they would start with the basics, build houses, then a church, and then a store. And then as there were more people, they'd have a drugstore, and then a blacksmith shop, and then mills around the outside areas, and eventually some of the more specific offices with professionals. Well, anyway, this would be, I would say, the first one built after they get themselves established, a store. Everybody went to the store. If they didn't grow something or make it at home, they had to go to the store. People would shop, they'd visit, they'd get the news and pick up the gossip, and if the store didn't have it, you didn't need it. That was their basic concept. The fixtures in this particular print shop were originally used by Eben A. Hall. E.A. Hall Print Shop, in fact, was the name of the business and the building down on Bank Road in Greenfield. This particular fixture is called a cylinder press. It was used to print the Greenfield newspaper from the 1880s until about 1892 anyway. It was made in New York City. It had a steam engine that ran a belt that turned the pulley that moved all the parts. The newspaper was called the Gazette and Courier. This is an herbal pharmacy, by the way. At the time, the pharmacist compounded his own prescription remedies using herbs. This was definitely the case back, going back probably to the mid-1800s, herbal pharmacies. And they sold the usual products that were manufactured, snake oil cure-alls, but they specifically were engaged with herbal products. And then that changed too later, and the more modern medications came along. This is representative. Yes, it is.
If you would like to experience Greenfield as it was in the 1890s, stop in at the village on the Mohawk Trail or call 413-774-7138 for a guided tour. And remember to check back to gctv.org for more continuing community coverage.